A 3-day work week? I think most of us would say, sign me up. But it may not be a pipe dream. Some high-profile proponents are now pushing for shorter working weeks as evidence mounts that they increase productivity and employment rates. Here to tell us more is Market Watch reporter Quentin Futrell and Cali Yost, Flex Plus Strategy Group CEO and founder. Thanks to both of you for being here. Quentin, I'm going to start with you. The shorter work week recently got a very high-profile shout-out from a billionaire who probably knows a thing or two about productivity.
Right. Carlos Slim says that a 3-day work week is preferable. Now, he did say 10 or 11 hours a day.
Okay.
Second richest man in the world. Maybe it's a bit rich for him to say that everybody should be working 3 hours a day. But I don't know about you, but I like the idea.
I do too. I do too. And he's not the only one. We have a soundbite from Larry Page. Larry Page and Sergey Brin recently had a chat about it. So here's what Larry Page has to say.
Most people, if I ask them, like, would you like, an extra week of vacation? They raise their hands. 100% of people. 2 weeks or 4-day work week. Everyone will raise their hand. Most people like working, but they'd also like to have more time with their family or to do their own interests. So that would be one way to deal with the problem, is if you had a coordinated way to just reduce work week. And then if you had slightly less employment, you could adjust and people would still have jobs.
So, Cali, I'm going to bring you in here because you work with companies to help them institute more flexible work environments. It seems so many people are talking about this right now and seeming to agree that shorter work weeks are better. So what gives? What's it going to take to get everyone on board?
Well, Tanya, first, the problems that Carlos Slim and the Google founders are trying to address with a reduced work week are real. In the case of Carlos Slim, he's talking about how people can work longer. We're living longer. We're going to have to work longer. How do we do that in a healthy way? And the Google founders, the problem that he referenced is that technology, there's a sense, is really going to start to take away a lot of jobs for people. And how are we going to handle that? So again, these challenges are real. But to go from our current work week to a reduced work week is actually not going to be as easy as we think it is.
So, Quentin, I want to ask you, though, in your reporting, did you find that worker satisfaction is linked to how much you like your job or how little you work?
Well, regardless, a good question, regardless of how often you work, you really have to feel like your job has some kind of higher purpose or you're engaged. You know, those 2 a.m. shifts where people have the cold pizza and it's a long day, but they don't care because what they feel is worthwhile.
They're excited about it.
Right.
Which begs the question, all of these billionaires we're hearing from that are proponents of these shorter work weeks, do you think that they would have been proponents when they were starting their companies?
I don't think so. But as companies get more mature and the workforce becomes more tech savvy, studies have shown that productivity is not linked to longer work days. In fact, many studies say it's actually the opposite.
And certainly there are many countries that bear that out.
Right. In Europe, work weeks are far less, 35 days in France or less, Germany as well. And Greece has much longer work days, is far less productive than those two countries.
All right, so Cali, you're the expert on the flex work environment. What are some ways an individual worker can achieve a better balance if the company management isn't yet leading the way?
Well, if you do need to work a reduced work schedule, you can put together a plan, a well thought out plan that talks about how you are going to be able to do your reduced schedule with perhaps a reconfigured job. Always coming to a table with a plan can help you start that conversation. But here's what I think is important about this issue. You're going to get a lot of people raising their hands to say if you want to work less hours. The problem is when you add and you'll make less money, a lot of those hands are going to go down.
Good point.
So in the case of Carlos Slim, he isn't actually reducing their compensation because, as Quentin said, it's really a longer day. But I don't hear the Google founders talking about, oh, and everybody's going to get to continue to make the same amount of money. And that's really the challenge here. It's not just compensation, it's also that much of our HR legislation, much of our allocation of headcount inside of organizations, all of those things are crafted off of a 35, 40-hour work week. So there would have to be some real systemic changes in how we just even legislate and run our organizations. So again, individuals can do what they can by coming to the table with a plan. But if we're going to take this much more to a broader level, it's going to require a real fundamental shift in how we compensate people and how we run our organizations.
All good points. So the 3-day work week, not yet with us, but we can still dream. Thank you so much, Cali. Thank you, Quentin, for that. It was all fun to discuss and dream.